So that if we tapped into the general active vacuum structure, we would have access to energy, in excess of, whatever we could imagine. And we would start to have capacities that may look today as miracles. I mean, the capacity to start, manifesting things right out of the vacuum, and so on. As well, the capacity to change the structure of space-time to create gravitational fields and so on. So that's one thing. But as well, a society that understands these principles start to understand the thread of their relationship to the universe all the way back to their origin, all the way back through the fractal nature of space. You start to connect with the fundamental power of your existence, and beings that reach that level have very high level of capacity to move information through, meaning more, it's like if the universe is truly a feedback, it's just like an electrical circuit. An electrical circuit is a kind of feedback. It has a positive lead and a negative lead, and the electrons are moving from negative to positive. And what's in between is a resistor, right? If you take the two leads and you short them, then everything blows up. But in between there's always a resistor. The resistor is you. You are the resistor in that feedback of space-time between the energy, between the information that's going out and the information that's coming in. And you're changing it every time that it goes through. And your world is adjusting to continue to feed you the information so that you continue to learn. And what changes the amount of information that's going through that is the ohmage of that resistor. Right? And so if you can reduce the resistance, then there's less impedance and the information can move through faster and faster. And you become more aligned and learn faster and grow to understanding higher thoughts of relationship with the universe than thoughts of separation and competition. A similar event happened on our planet millions of years ago. Our planet almost went to extinction millions of years ago, where microbes were producing too much pollutants at the time. That was oxygen for them. And they were all dying. And they were in competition mode. And they went almost to extinction until they figured out that they better collaborate, otherwise they were going to all die. And they started to collaborate, and they produced, I'm giving you this in a nutshell, really, but they produced a multicellular system that started to breed the oxygen, right? And they beat it, and then eventually all this complexity of our biosphere emerged from it. And that came from a change from competition to collaboration. That's all that was needed. And I believe that now the fractal analogy is that we are a bunch of microbe at the next fractal level, right? And we're learning that very same lesson. And we got to get it real quick. Because we're at that point of high stress in our capacity to survive. So, and I believe that learning the fundamental structure of the vacuum, how it applies to physics and technology, and how it applies to consciousness, is fundamental to really realizing who we are and our relationship to the universe. And by doing so, realizing our commonality, that we all have that singularity within ourselves, that we all come from the same center. I tell people, we live on a planet, right? It's round. Huh? All of our heads are diverging, right? We're all individual. All our heads are diverging. But all of our feet are converging to the same point that connects us all. That same gravitational field, that same singularity. I mean it philosophically and literally. And that understanding that we are all on the same boat and that we better collaborate, I think is going to clubber us in the next few years. I believe very quickly. and it's going to allow really new level of physics and new level of technology to emerge. So, thank you very much. And if you can, come to the seminar on Sunday. I think there's sign-up sheets in the back. And is there questions? The only thing, the question is, I'm saying the only thing that makes sense is that energy is infinite. Yes. Okay, but yes qualified, meaning that there is an infinite amount of energy, I believe, because there is infinite amount of possibility of division. And so that would produce infinite density and singularity and an infinite amount of energy. But the energy that's available is the energy in which that you're dealing with in the context of a scale, in the fractal structure of space, right? But even in the context of a scale, if we could tap into 0.00 something% of the energy of the vacuum at our scale, we would still be dealing with much more energy that we could ever use. So it's very interesting.
My question is, how do you envision one would access these structures? Just like you need an accelerator to start looking at smaller and smaller particles, do you have a vision of, I mean, what would that look like in your mind?
Right. Huh. Okay. You know, during the day-long seminar, I'll be able to answer that better.
Well, I'll be there.
Okay, good. But in general, first of all, I think that is the main thing is, and what I'm trying to convey here, is that it's important for the individuals to connect with that energy in themselves. You know, that you are one of those things that's tapping into the vacuum energy, because if you weren't, you wouldn't be here. Like, I give you an example. Every atom you're made of is spinning continuously at near the speed of light. I mean, the electron anyway. And you're not pumping them, you're not doing anything. They're doing their thing, right? So the concept, even the concept that you die is not quite correct, because every atom that you're made of is always going to be there, right? You're shedding atoms and picking up others on the way, right? And then when you're done, they're all going to go back to a different scale in the structure geometry of space. You see? All the information is still present. So,
Are you saying that it's an internal thing?
there is,
How you're going to...
that's definitely the first step.
It's an inward thing.
Yeah, it's an inward.
Not through a machine.
Well, then when you've got this figured, which some masters of meditation figured out a long time ago, that there's a point of infinite density, they called it the God point, or they call it the Bindu point, or they call it, you know, there's also the kingdom of heaven is within the whole thing. Right. When you got that figure, then it's a good thing if you can apply that in your external world. And actually, you could start to conceptualize devices that reproduce that, so that you would have access in your external world to energy or space-time warping or space travel, or, you know.
Any kind of concept what that device would look like?
Yeah.
Could you just kind of tell me quickly?
I was trying to avoid that whole thing. Yeah, I think that what that device looked like is actually described in many ancient texts by many ancient civilizations. I actually think that the device was present on our planet thousands and thousands of years before written history, that it was given to us, and that is extremely powerful. And it most likely looks like a sphere that has a very high energy radiant level and is very bright. And in ancient tradition, it was either called the black sun, okay, by the Sumerians, or the black stone, or there's many different references to it. One of them was the disk of Mu by the South American tradition.
What?
The disk of Mu. MU. In many different